I am so grateful for all of the people who are here today for this rally for housing and services to end homelessness in Utah. We have a bunch of different organizations who are here with us today. I would like to start off by introducing the people who will be leading us in our chants between speakers. Would you like to come explain how we're going to do that?
Hi, I'm Jocelyn. Oh wait, can you hear me? There we go, I'm short. Okay, I'm Jocelyn. So basically what we're gonna be doing today is, everyone knows the Hot to Go song, right? Like H-O-T-T-O-G-O. So we're doing that rhythm and theme while we're gonna change it up. Natalie, do you wanna say what, because you have a better voice than me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll go. But it's gonna go.
Oh. Right
Okay, right here. It goes H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. So people could join in, it would be appreciated.
Yes.
You'd love it.
Yeah. So just spell home. That spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. So.
Okay. So the words are on this sign. Would you like to lead the group in doing it, practicing a couple times before we get started with everything else?
Okay. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Hands up. There we go. H-O-M-E, that spells home.
No one should sleep in the
You
snow.
guys got it. There we go. It's pretty easy, right?
One more time.
Ready?
H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow.
Alrighty.
Yeah, that's awesome. Or somebody else could hold it. Okay, my name is Bill Tibbetts. I am the Deputy Executive Director at Crossroads Urban Center and the staff person for the Faith and Advocacy Coalition End Hunger and Homelessness, or Face Hunger and Homelessness. I want to thank everybody for being here. We're going to start with an opening prayer by the Reverend Dr. Curtis Price from First Baptist Church.
Please join me in praying together. O God, who is often described as our refuge and a shelter in the storm, we come in prayer now acknowledging that throughout history and in many different traditions, you have demanded and empowered that we, your children, give shelter to those in need, offer hospitality to the stranger, and care for those who are hurting. Today we gather once again to give voice to your call to compassion. We ask, O God, that our lawmakers be reminded of this obligation that comes with our humanity. May they heed the words of the prophet Isaiah, who, speaking the word of the Lord, said, "Is not the fast that I choose to share bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house?" May you place in their hearts the desire to honor the dignity and worth of every child of God you bring into our community. Inspire those in power to seek real, lasting solutions that look beyond warehousing our unsheltered citizens away from our eyes, but rather invests in their long-term health and well-being through housing that is affordable and accessible, resources that will equip them to succeed in finding their way out of the wilderness of experiencing homelessness, and programs that move people from insecurity to stability, from dependence to independence, from hopelessness to hope. Oh God, protect those who are vulnerable this day. Watch over those who are on the streets on these cold, cold nights. Bring help to those in need. And may we, gathered here today, pledge our continued commitment to being the hands and feet of your love and compassion. And may we continue to lift up the voices of those who lack political clout or connection, who are not often heard or seen in these marbled halls, but who remain a vital and beloved part of our community. In the name of all that is holy, we pray. Amen.
Okay, I think we'll do the chant after each speaker. We don't need to do it after the prayer. We're going to next start with reading of a statement that we are presenting today, or we're to the public. There are 7 organizations that have endorsed this statement, and over 230 individuals, and we're going to have Levy Woodruff, who is the board chair of the governing board of First United Methodist Church, read the statement for everyone.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us today. This is the statement from the Faith and Advocacy Coalition to End Hunger and Homelessness and our community partners about the moral imperative to begin building housing and scaling up services to end homelessness before the Winter Olympics return to Utah in 2034. We are writing to you as clergy and lay people from a variety of faith traditions and as other concerned citizens in anticipation of the beginning of the 2026 General Session of the Utah Legislature. Our message is simple. If Utah does not immediately begin making serious efforts to produce the housing and appropriate services to end homelessness, then it will soon be too late to avoid the shame of inviting the world's elite to visit Utah during the 2034 Olympic Games at a time when the total unsheltered homeless population is double what it is today. For the past 10 years, the discussion about homelessness has been overly focused on efforts to build better homeless shelters. It is important to have safe and clean places indoors for people to sleep in. But homeless shelters do not cause people to become homeless, and the nonprofit organizations that operate homeless shelters do not have the resources to produce the thousands of deeply affordable housing units that are needed to help people move out of homelessness and not return to homelessness. These 4 facts should help make the need for diverse types of deeply affordable housing with appropriate supportive services clear to all. 10,261 people became homeless for the first time in Utah in 2024. We will never be able to build enough shelter beds if we do not have housing and services to move all of those people out of the system as fast as possible. 1,091 people with autism or another developmental disability were homeless in Utah in 2024. Many of those people also had mental health conditions or physical disabilities. We have an ethical obligation to identify those who need long-term support and to provide that help in a way that allows them to live with dignity and opportunities to develop meaningful social connections. 14% of the people who were homeless in Utah in 2024 were children. Homelessness prevention is always cheaper than the cumulative cost of attempting to ameliorate homelessness and address the long-term consequences homelessness can have on physical and emotional well-being. The number of homeless people older than 64 who were identified in Utah's point-in-time count increased by 42% in 2024. Without a serious focus on preventing senior homelessness, we risk having our entire homeless system becoming overwhelmed as the baby boomer generation becomes increasingly unable to work and more reliant on Social Security to pay for basic necessities. The Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness has produced a helpful analysis of the types of housing and services that would need to be produced over a 4-year period to reduce homelessness to a manageable level. This analysis can serve as backbone for creating a statewide plan that can be used to galvanize broad support for action in time to reduce homelessness before the 2034 Olympic Games. We ask you to join us in acknowledging our collective responsibility to work to end homelessness in our state for seniors, families with children, youth, people with developmental disabilities, people with physical disabilities, people with serious mental illness, and people with substance use disorders. As Bill mentioned, a number of organizations have signed this statement. This includes Crossroads Urban Center, Holiday United Church of Christ, the Nomad Alliance, Powerful Moms Who Care, the Faith and Advocacy Coalition to End Hunger and Homelessness, the Utah Housing Coalition, the Utah Valley Interfaith Association, and over 230 individual signers.
Okay,
Hello. What do we do?
the chair.
We turn this.
Yep.
Okay. Ready? We're doing it again. Pretty easy. Hands up. Ready? Ready? Set. H-O-M-E.
That spells home. No one should sleep in the snow.
Ooh, that was good. Want me to get again? Yeah, okay. Ready?
H-O-M-E. That spells home. No one should sleep in the snow.
Come on, a little bit more energy. You ready? Now, let's get a little bit more bouncy. We'll do it one more time. You ready? Okay. H-O-M-E. That spells home. No one should sleep in the snow.
Good morning. I am Reverend Bridgette Weir, pastor at St. Matthew Lutheran Church in Taylorsville, Utah. As part of my vocation as an educator and as clergy, I have had the honor and privilege to walk beside beloved individuals of all ages with disabilities, their families, and their caregivers. Now, today I could stand here and rattle off statistics and studies, and I have that if you want it. I can happily send that to you, but we're not here to talk about numbers. We are here to talk about beloved children of God. We have to repent in this country that we have an ugly and sordid past with our treatment of people with disabilities and mental illness. From the humane institutions, medical neglect and intentional harm, to ensuring that they are invisible and swept under the rug, we need to stand here today in reconciling the harm caused to these people's humanity. We have learned that housing is crucial for people with disabilities to receive appropriate, humane care. We learned that, and we did better, and people with disabilities did better. But now in this present moment, Governor Cox and the legislature are careening us into a U-turn to relive a history which we should be avoiding at all costs. They are creating the 2026 version of the archaic and callous warehouses for people with disabilities with this involuntary detention center. And that reveals exactly what it will cost us. Yes, there will be financial costs. The involuntary detention center will cost taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. And there's another cost. There's another cost to our societal soul here in Utah. Do we want to pay the moral price of denying human beings with disabilities supportive and accessible housing? Let me ask that again. Do we want to pay the moral price for denying human beings, beloved people of God with disabilities, supportive and accessible housing? No! That's better. My friends, our budgets are moral documents. They tell us who we are and what matters to us and what we prioritize. When Governor Cox in the legislature tells us that there's no funding for supportive housing for people with mental health, addiction, or intellectual disabilities, they tell us who they are. And they're using our money, our taxes at the state and federal level to tell us who we should be, what we should care about, who we should care about, who deserves housing, healthcare, food, and dignity. So today we are here to be loud and proud about who we are. Who we are people that call out the necessity for all people to be housed, to receive medical and mental health care, to live in a safe and loving community. Our siblings with disabilities should not pay the price with their lives for political or financial gains. So to Governor Cox and all of our state leaders, show us the moral courage to create a Utah where no one is unsheltered and housing is a human right. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Laura Young, South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society, and I'm here to speak about and on behalf of the children. As my colleague Brigitte just said, our budgets are moral documents, and we demand a better morality here in the state of Utah. I have a question for you, two questions actually. How many of you have ever had a bad month?
Yes.
How many of you have ever faced an unexpected expense?
Yes.
How many of you have ever faced a series of hard months and a bunch of hard, difficult experiences and expenses all at once?
Yes.
All of us have had that experience. We are all subject to the ups and the downs of life. That is normal and expected. What is not normal and what is not acceptable is when our collective failure as a community makes those situations and those circumstances worse. When we fail to prioritize people over profit, we create terrible circumstances where suffering is exacerbated. We create homelessness and despair. And when this happens in a child's life, the consequences are dire and they take a very long time to recover from. When a child is homeless, it is because the adults around them are struggling. When parents and families cannot find good jobs that pay fair wages, when they cannot find full-time work, when they're subject only to gig work and part-time work or underemployment, that is when children become homeless. And when the cost of healthcare and housing are so great that it makes any extra expense a crisis, the problem is not an individual or a personal problem. It is a collective problem.
Yes.
We are here because we want a government that works for every person. And that means choosing to be connected and to work together to bring about a beloved community that our faith and civic leaders have long envisioned in this country. Investing in programs and services that work, that are evidence-based, that reduce suffering, matters. Investing in hope and in dignity and the inherent worth of every person works every single time. It works every time. When we act with compassion, when we work to build people up, it works. When we restore dignity and worth that has been taken by force or circumstance, it works. And we are here to remind our leadership that we are expecting them to demonstrate the moral fortitude and conviction to apply solutions and money to treat homelessness. We are here because we have faith in the democratic process, in the rule of law. And we are here to make sure that our leadership follows their moral compass that we determine, not what they think is moral, what we, the people, know is moral. We are here because we give a damn and we refuse to accept that nothing more can be done. We are here to be in solidarity with everyone who cannot be here today. And we are here for the children. We are here for the children because they need us to speak for them where they cannot. And we will continue to do so until it is done. Thank you.
It's an honor to represent Weber Morgan Local Homeless Council, service providers, partners, and community members who work every day with our neighbors experiencing homelessness. Here's what we know from the ground. People want a home. In the last federal fiscal year, 608 people in our county exited homeless services to permanent housing. That's real progress. And it also proves the point. When housing exists and the right supports exist, people move into it. But our system can't solve homelessness with shelter alone, because shelter isn't the exit. Housing is the exit. And for many people, seniors, families with children, people with developmental disabilities, and others with serious health needs, housing must come with the services that make stability possible. With seniors in specific in Utah from 2024 to 2025, there was a 42% jump in unhoused individuals over 64. Statewide, the pressure is rising. In 2020-24, 10,261 Utahns experienced homelessness for the first time, up from 9,813 individuals in the prior year. At the same time, we have a housing market that shuts out our lowest income renters. Nationally, there are only 35 affordable and available rental homes for every 100 extremely low-income renters. So our message today is simple. Any proposal to reduce homelessness that doesn't include deeply affordable housing paired with appropriate services will fail. We can do better. Let's build the housing, let's fund the services, and let's make sure every Utahn has a safe place to live. I was asked to share my name and who I'm with. Kenton Jepson with United Way of Northern Utah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all again for being here for this. We are asked, my name is Bill Tibbetts, I work at Crossroads Urban Center, and part of one of our goals for this event, and why we help participate in this, is that the Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness produced this report just a month or two ago called Housing Now. And if you look at it, it shows that if we build about 6,800 units or produce 6,800 units of deeply affordable housing over a 4-year period, we can essentially end homelessness in Salt Lake County. The report has a bunch of different types of housing that we need, but what they note that they will be expensive. They say that the total cost would be $1.56 billion to build those units. They also note that this has gotten more and more expensive over time. They did a similar report in 2020, and at that time, it would have cost less than $1 billion. So the cost has gone up by over 50% in less than a year. And so you could say, 1.56 billion is a lot of money, but as taxpayers, we're spending more money on that, on building 2 sports stadiums right now than we are on that. And every year we spend more money than that on transportation. And so we are a state that is able to fund things that we care about. Our next speaker is Senator Nate Bluin, who is going to talk about a bill to replicate this study statewide and to create a plan for funding it. It's important to note that $1.56 billion, there are housing tax credits that can help build that. There are people in the philanthropic sector, there are people in the business community. If we tied it to the Olympic Games, there are probably people in the business community who would donate. So this is something that is possible, and we're grateful that Senator Blumen's willing to sponsor a bill to study what it would take statewide.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for all the great work that everyone here does. Thank you all for being here today. I want to start off by saying this. Homelessness is not inevitable. It is the result of choices that we make as a society, and we can make better ones. Right now, seniors on fixed income, people with disabilities, and hard-working families are at risk of losing their housing. Today, more than 3/4 of low-income renters spend over half of what they make just on rent. This is not the Utah that I stand for. If Utah can spend billions of dollars every year for roads then we can afford case management. If Utah can spend billions of dollars on a billionaire's hockey arena, then we can afford community-based services to support individuals with mental illness. If we can afford a tax cut year after year after year, then we can afford to provide actual affordable housing. Or maybe we can just say no to another tax cut that mostly benefits the wealthiest and choose dignity, stability, and housing for all Utahns. Housing first works Deeply affordable housing paired with services works. Shelters matter, but shelters alone do not end homelessness. You do not solve a housing shortage by managing people in crisis forever. You do not solve homelessness by expanding the surveillance state. You solve it by building homes and making sure people have the support to stay housed. You solve it by supporting strong unions, livable wages, and tenant protections. We don't do that so well in Utah. You solve it by going after loan sharks and others whose business is set up to exploit people in the working class. Housing is cheaper than homelessness. Prevention is cheaper than a crisis, and doing what works is always better than doing what is politically comfortable. In 2034, the world will come to Utah for the Olympic Games. I don't want us to be scrambling to explain why thousands of our neighbors are sleeping in shelters or on the street. When AI takes jobs or tariffs kill small businesses, the question is simple. Will people be left to fail, or will there be a safety net to catch them? We need action, not delay. Delay is not neutral, delay is expensive, and delay is cruel. The Housing Now report makes the stakes clear. If Salt Lake County wants to move people out of homelessness, it needs nearly 7,000 housing units in just 4 years. And every year we wait, the cost goes up. The price tag today is already over 50% higher than it was just a few years ago. And you know what? People cannot wait. I am sponsoring a bill that does a statewide analysis like Housing Now. We cannot fix what we refuse to measure. Utah needs a clear, honest plan for how many homes we need, who they are for, and what it will take to get there, especially to protect seniors and people with developmental disabilities from being pushed into homelessness by a cost of living crisis that they did not create. So I want us to act now with urgency and with compassion to make sure that Utah is a place that lives up to our values. I want us to make sure we catch everyone that we can. Thank you to the faith leaders, the advocates and the service providers, the community members who showed up here today and are pushing people like me to do better. Let's meet this moment, let's build housing, let's scale up the services, and let's make sure that in Utah, everyone has a safe place to call home.
Good morning. My name is Nate Krippus with the Disability Law Center. We know that homelessness is an issue that disproportionately impacts the disability community. From the data, we know that about half of the homeless population in the state of Utah have some disabling condition. That is well above the average of the general population, which is around a quarter. We also know that the vast majority of those with disabilities in this community are those with mental illness and substance use disorder. When I think about housing stability for Utahns with disabilities, I actually think about the division of services for people with disabilities. We as a state serve nearly 7,000 people with developmental and intellectual disabilities. We provide them housing stability, we provide them wraparound services, we avoid institutionalization and forced treatment. Of course, admittedly, this is not a perfect system. We know we need more. We have 5,000 people waiting for these services, but at least every year I come up here and talk to legislators and they acknowledge the need for this population, and there's often an effort to fund more. People with disabilities have the right to live in the community with their non-disabled peers, to work alongside them, to be contributing members of their community. Unfortunately, for a subset of those with disabilities, those with serious and persistent mental illness, the state has failed to build a system that serves them in community-based settings. It seems the state has decided that one subset of people with disabilities is deserving of housing and support in the community, and one is not. I acknowledge we must do more to support people with disabilities across the spectrum, but we also must decide as a state that all people with disabilities are deserving of the same level of support. I call on the state to do more to support all Utahns with disabilities. Thank you.
Hello, how's everyone doing? My name is Cassini. I'm with the Nomad Alliance. I'm the founder and executive director, and we're a group of people, housed and unhoused alike, who band together to help the chronically unsheltered homeless. I have a lot of friends here today. I'm going to cede most of my time to them, but I do want to say that disability and homelessness are deeply intertwined. 61% in the recent HUD point-in-time count self-reported that they had a disability. 76% said they had a mental illness. And Utah, a recent small study found 20 to 40% have autism or another developmental disability. Tonight, while we're tucking ourselves into a warm bed, everyone back here and thousands of others on the street are going to be bracing themselves for another cold night. Usually they spend that walking. Imagine if you had a mobility problem. Anyway, thank you. I will cede my time to our friends.
Hi, my name is Michael. I've been homeless for the last 15 years. I had a friend recently die in 2017 of carbon monoxide because we was trying to keep warm. I've moved on. Fortunately, I've got a little baby, unexpected baby that showed up, and we're still homeless, trying to survive out there and not have our baby taken away because we're homeless and we have our child out there. But we're doing the best we can to keep her warm and in a safe home. And it's just really been hard and difficult out there being homeless. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Travis, Travis H. I've been homeless for a few years now. This is my home. And I just want to say that as I've noticed around here, I see people don't show the neighborly gestures that they used to back in the 80s and 90s. It's almost cold, and we need to change that, because I remember a street where I was a kid, and I would hand somebody on the corner or at the 7-Eleven something to eat with my $5 from Grandpa. And I remember how that made me feel. And I know that it's in everybody to help. You don't have to put a limit on it. And one thing that doesn't help is changing laws in order to make us go away. We're homeless men. We'll stay here until we get out of here. So just remember, we gotta stick together. And that's the best thing we can possibly do right now. Thank you, Almighty God.
Okay, you go ahead. Hello, my name is Jason. I've been homeless for 3 years. I actually work at the shelter, 3 years ago, and I got laid off. I had no idea what was going on out there on the streets with everybody, being herded like cattle and things like that. And just the way people are treated, especially people in wheelchairs and, disabilities. We get no camping tickets for having a blanket on the ground and still go to jail for it. And so I just think that there should be more humanity. Just everybody just need to get together and just help each other and to be able to get off the streets, because it's really cold out here, and I don't have no feeling in my hands anymore because it's so cold out here. And I just appreciate everything that everybody else has done for us out here. Thank you.
Are you sure? I just wanted to make sure I gave, I think it's important. Hi, I'm Angela Romero. I serve in the Utah House of Representatives, and I'm the leader of the House Democrats. But I wanted to defer to anyone here who's actually experiencing, who's unsheltered and experiencing our severe weather right now. And I just want to remind people experiencing homelessness are our neighbors, our moms, our dads, our seniors, our veterans, people working, people in crisis, and they deserve dignity and safety. And I think that's really important to emphasize. I think as elected officials, sometimes we get caught up in the rhetoric, and we get caught up in, this is what we have to do, this is how we're gonna solve it. But that's not what's going to solve this crisis that we have right now. We have to look at the economy, we have to look at affordability, but we also have to look at who's on the ground and who's making the decisions on how we're going to fund, how we're going to help people who are unsheltered, how we're going to help people who are feeling distressed, how we're going to help people who are just barely making it from one paycheck to the other paycheck. And so I just want to remind my colleagues, when we think about, as we move forward, we need to think about it from a compassionate lens. We can't criminalize people just because they can't find shelter. But also, more importantly, when we're looking at the shelter, and we've had these major conversations about the proposed shelter on the west side of Salt Lake City, which is one of the areas I represent, but it's not in my district. We have to think about people, because whether you're unsheltered or you have a home, we're all people. And so I want to make sure that when we do this, we're doing it with dignity, we're doing it with respect, but we're also just not, what I would say, incarcerating people because they have mental health issues or they're unsheltered. We have to find a way forward and a path forward, and that means a lot of investment, and that means wraparound services. So it's not just we want to make sure we have those shelter beds for people because people are in crisis now, but we also have to make sure that we're supporting the populations we're saying we're trying to help. So I look forward to this legislative session and having these conversations. And I have to get back to committee, and I don't want to take time away from the people who need to be up here at the microphone more than I do. So thank you for being here today. And I'm just pledging to our partners here that I'll always have your back, even when I'm not in the legislature. So thank you for all you do and advocating for safe spaces for all Utahns.
My name is Paul Blanchard. I've been homeless for over 20 plus years. I've been to 42 states, keep that in mind. The longest amount of time that I've been out on the streets is getting arrested about every other day and having my backpack and any gear that I've managed to accumulate stolen. So keep that in mind. I've slept behind dumpsters. I've slept in places that you guys I promise you don't want to be. But that being said, I'm probably Utah's number one positive case. I ain't gonna be too egotistical about that, but it is cold out there, and it does help whenever we get kickdowns of candles or sleeping bags or blankets. I had a really big problem with people invading my camp spots, and they were refugees from another state. I just went and found another one. But that is an issue. And, that being said, keep up the good work, keep us in mind, and don't look down on us, but give us a positive hand up, not a hand out.
Hey, my name's Joshua Barber. My house burned down, made me homeless. That happened back in October, middle of October, towards the late end. Since then, I've met a lot of people, like the ones that spoke up here, and I've heard a lot of things. But everything I thought about being homeless, all the programs that they think are out there that you're supposed to have access to, don't always come to fruition and don't always get access. So what needs to happen, I believe, is more sorting of the people, and people that are homeless because they're homeless, like myself, or they have mental illness or some disabilities, right? Like I have one, but I'm not helped with that during my homeless portion, right? So at this point, just like sort the people and figure it out, and then help the ones that need the help in the order they need it. That's pretty much it.
Hello. I am Reverend Kim James. I'm recently retired United Methodist pastor. And from my personal experience and my pastoral ministry experience, I know that serious mental illness is not something that can quickly be fixed. Some folks may need lifelong assistance and supportive, stable housing. According to NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, 1 out of every 20 adults in the United States experiences serious mental illness each year. In Utah, the percentage of those suffering from mental illness is higher than the national average. The Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute indicates that Utah's rate of adult serious mental illness ranks 3rd highest in the nation. One estimate is that our state has 139,000 adults with serious mental illnesses like major depression and anxiety, PTSD, obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and schizophrenia. Fortunately, not all those people are experiencing homelessness. Many are managing with the support of their families and their health insurance, or through state-funded assistance programs like Medicaid, housing vouchers, and supportive group housing. Yes. But others struggle intensely. For far too many, serious mental illness causes difficulties with education and debilitating disruptions from work. Serious mental illness strains family relationships to the breaking point. 1 in 4 people with a mental illness has been arrested by the police at some point in their lifetime, which often taints their record and makes it even harder to get and keep employment. Persons with serious mental illnesses are also likely to have other untreated physical illnesses and/or substance abuse or disorders. Those who are managing life during certain periods may experience other times when they cannot cope. All those challenges, interruptions, and upsets increase the likelihood of housing instability and homelessness. Recent threats to defund Housing First policies and supportive housing programs will only exacerbate the turmoil that exists for those who experience serious mental illness. The burden and conundrum are real and frustrating, and quite likely won't be solved without considerably more mental health research. In the meantime, we must call on our state leaders to adequately fund a variety of housing options that provide the right levels of affordability, independence, dignity, and support.
No one should sleep in the snow. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow.
Here. Okay, ready? Go.
Hi, I'm Militia. I'm a board member of Powerful Moms. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm trying, but hi, I'm Militia. I'm a board member of Powerful Moms Who Care. Today I want to talk about housing, how important housing is to me and my family of 7. It is hard for me and my husband to work, both of us to work, because of my 8-year-old with Down syndrome and my 8-month-old, and they charge so much for childcare for both of us to work. So without our housing voucher, we would all be in the shelter. Back in October, we had a scare of losing our housing, and we went to stay at a shelter because they had room, and we were scared that if we didn't, we would lose all of our kids. So we went for the weekend. And one weekend, all of my kids caught strep and were super sick for Halloween. My 8-year-old and my 8-month-old have very weak immune systems, and I couldn't imagine having them in the shelter full term. I have had my voucher for 6, almost 7 years. And then before that, me and my 13-year-old, we were homeless for 7 years, in and out of different shelters. And then when my family grew, so then for about 5.5 years, we were at Palmer Court, and when my family grew, I adopted 3 girls, I married my husband, got my bonus son, and we had our son. We had to move to a bigger place, and my 13-year-old was scared because we were finally stable. And now we've been at our new home for 9 months, and it's starting to feel like home again to her finally.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Shayla Shumway. I am a mother, not a politician, not a developer, and I'm a part of Powerful Moms Who Care. A mom who is doing everything she can to keep a roof over her child's head. I've lived in wealthy communities. I've also lived in low-income housing. And let me be very clear. Low-income housing is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. Right now in Salt Lake City and across Utah, families like mine are being pushed to the edge. Rent is rising, wages are not. And when affordable housing disappears, families don't magically figure it out. They lose stability, they lose safety, and too often they lose their children because kids can't live on the streets and parents shouldn't have to choose between food, rent, and keeping their family together. If we eliminate low-income housing, we're not solving a problem, we're creating a crisis. The solution is not displacement, the solution is investment. We need more affordable family-centered housing, we need protection for existing low-income units, and we need policies that keep families housed, supported, and together. Stable housing is the foundation for stable families, safer communities, and stronger futures. This isn't a small issue. Nearly 90% of Utah families are one emergency away from housing instability. What makes this moment unique is that families are speaking up. Mothers, parents, and community leaders are saying, we belong here too. This isn't a small issue. At Powerful Moms That Care, we don't just talk, we act. We organize parents, we advocate for family-first policies, and we bring real stories to decision makers who need to hear them. Our team is made up of mothers, community leaders, and advocates who understand this crisis because we live it. Our strength is people, parents who care, communities who show up, and leaders who are ready to do better. We work through the advocacy, education, and policy engagement to protect families and housing access. Today, I'm asking you to protect low-income housing, to fund affordable housing solutions, and to listen to families who are most impacted. Because when families are housed, children thrive. I don't want my child growing up worried about where we'll sleep, and no parent should have to live with that fear. Low-income housing is not the problem, it's a part of the solution. Thank you for standing with families like mine.
Okay, we're back. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow.
Housing stability changes lives. There is nothing more disenfranchising than not having a place to call home. My name's Grant Miller. I'm a representative up here. Last year, I ran what I called a homeless Bill of Rights because I believe there's nothing more fundamental than the right to have your own home. It's one of the most common tenets of our most basic humanity. Homelessness comes in many different forms. It's not all shelters. Some folks couch surf, others sleep in their cars. A lot of people really struggle because you can't get ahead if you don't have a place to call home. A home is more than just a building. A home is a place where you shower and keep your effects. It's where you cook. It's where you share time with family, share the stories of the day, break bread with friends. No person should be deprived of that most basic, fundamental essence of our humanity. Everyone deserves a home. This is an affordable housing issue. We have a right to affordable housing. It's in our state constitution. Our founding members of this state put it right at the top. Article 1, Section 1 says you have the right as a Utahn to acquire property, to protect your property, and to possess that property. That's a right, not for the rich, not for the wealthy, not for those with ultimate status, but for every Utahn. We must do everything we can to endeavor to create housing stability for everyone because housing stability changes lives. Thank you.
Hey, you ready? H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow.
My name is Judy Hall, and I'm from the Utah Shattering Silence Coalition and the mom of a son with schizophrenia. We work to improve the mental health reform in Utah. We believe that we need to reduce stigma, advocate for compassionate, effective, and accountable care. Thank you for allowing me to participate. Homelessness has many causes, but people with severe, serious mental illness often psychosis-related disorders make up a significant part of the homeless population. There's two reasons. First is the nature of these illnesses themselves. Psychosis causes a lack of contact with reality, replacing it with frightening delusions or paranoia. Our loved ones seem changed, making comments or acting in ways that are unfamiliar. Home can become an unfamiliar place for them. In an effort to retreat, to obtain safety, they retreat or run from the very people that offer to give them help. And with minimal resources, they end up in the street. Another reason is the fragmented nature of the systems of our care. People can be hospitalized for 72 hours or a short inpatient stay, but that is not enough to bring stabilization and clarity. Too often they are released with a bus ticket or maybe a flyer for another treatment center without notifying their families and left with nowhere to go. The only place that will take them, the streets. If law enforcement becomes involved, often for minor behaviors linked to psychosis, individuals might be booked and then released at night during in unfamiliar places with no resources. This cycle must stop. No one with serious mental illness should ever be released to homelessness. Discharges must include step-down lounge, confirmed step-down placements, or supportive housing with wraparound services, active, robust, case management, med management, peer support. We need to stop the merry-go-round of in and out of jail, hospital, and back again. We join the voices of others here. Utah can do better. People with serious mental illness, our people, want what everyone wants: a safe place to live, meaningful work to do, and connections with others. They need permanent supportive housing with robust wraparound services that meet their needs. Please make a space for them in our communities. Allow them homes with safety, dignity, and care. Thank you.
Okay. Let's get it, guys. Yeah. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow.
Hello, friends. I'm Miranda Cutler. I am the Executive Director of Unsheltered Utah, and behind me, there are just a few of the members of the Second and Second Coalition, which is a coalition of faith groups and community groups here. We believe in compassion, responsibility, and the simple truth that every person deserves safety and dignity. Unsheltered Utah and our coalition partners meet our unsheltered brothers and sisters face to face on the streets and in the Methodist and Episcopal churches downtown. After many of us pushed hard in 2022, Utah passed its first statewide Code Blue law in 2023. Under that statute, our 2 church sites now welcome up to 140 guests on Code Blue movie nights, offering you can tell it's an important part of our community fabric. We offer a warm meal, a blanket, a safe place to rest, and a simple message: you matter. The people we welcome are elderly neighbors, grandparents, veterans, people with disabilities. We put families in hotels who've lost their footing in a brutal housing market. These are not strangers. They are us on a harder day. And we've seen the cost of leaving people outside in the cold. Over the years, we've opened the churches, we've watched relatively healthy bodies come back to us, missing fingers, toes, even limbs. One guest recently lost his hands when his tent caught fire as he tried to survive a freezing night. His resilience is remarkable, but no one should have to risk their life just to stay warm. This is why Code Blue matters. Right now, Code Blue activates around 5 a.m. on the day temperatures are forecast to hit 18 degrees or below with wind chill. But we all know people suffer frostbite and die at 32 degrees, especially when they are exhausted, wet, elderly, sick, or living with disabilities. 18 degrees is too low. If we raise that threshold, we can prevent hospitalizations, amputations, trauma, and death. One single frostbite can cost tens of thousands of dollars. An amputation can exceed $100,000. Costs ultimately borne by all of us. These are preventable tragedies and preventable expenses. And we need more than a few hours' notice of Code Blue to notify the community and mobilize facilities, transportation, and volunteers. This is good stewardship of resources of community trust and lives. So today, our ask is clear and achievable. Raise the Code Blue temperature threshold and help us do what we do better and avoid confusion by locking in the Code Blue forecast 2 days in advance. Predictability saves lives and money. My faith tradition calls on me to bear one another's burdens that they may be light. Others call it being a good neighbor or building the beloved community. However we say it, the principle is the same. A community is judged not by its wealth, but by its welcome. This is not about us and them. This is about we, choosing compassion that is timely, practical, and brave. The real question is not whether we can afford to act, it's whether we can afford, morally, ethically, and financially, not to. Thank you.
H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow. H-O-M-E, that spells home. No one should sleep in the snow.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. I'm Senator Stephanie Pitcher. I represent communities in Salt Lake City, Mill Creek, Holiday Murray, and Cottonwood Heights. When I first ran for the legislature, I worked as a prosecutor in Salt Lake City. I worked every day with people cycling through our criminal justice system. And one thing became clear. When people are released from incarceration back into homelessness, the system is almost guaranteed to fail them. When someone leaves jail without a safe place to sleep, they aren't starting fresh. They're pushed into survival mode. That can look like missing probation check-ins, struggling to keep a job, failing to access treatment, or being criminalized simply for existing. That's not a personal failure, that's a structural one. And the data backs this up. Research shows that people on probation or parole who experience homelessness are nearly 50% more likely to return to incarceration. And every additional move, a couch surf, a new shelter, new place to stay, raises that risk even more. Instability is what fuels recidivism. This is why we need to understand housing policy is public safety policy, and housing policy is reentry policy. Utah is facing a severe shortage of deeply affordable housing, and that shortage hits people returning from incarceration the hardest. If there's nowhere to go, people are set up to fail at an enormous human and financial cost. But we know what works. Stable, affordable housing paired with appropriate services reduces homelessness, reduces recidivism, and makes our communities safer. It is cheaper than jail, it is smarter than endless emergency response, and it is far more humane. If we are serious about ending homelessness in Utah before the world comes here in 2034, we must invest now in deeply affordable housing and remove unnecessary barriers that keep people from stability. Housing truly is the foundation, and when we provide it, everyone benefits. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for coming here. The legislative session begins next Tuesday. There will be a lot of important bills around services that help people avoid homelessness, ideas for addressing homelessness, some of them good, some of them bad. If you are interested in being involved with efforts to follow up on this, we do send out a weekly email update from Crossroads Urban Center on our website. You can sign up for it. But we as a state need to stop. About 10 years ago, we started pursuing the idea of building the perfect shelter. If we just had a good enough shelter, we would end homelessness. And that is a lot like saying the housing prices are too high and that there aren't enough affordable homes because of some problems in the real estate industry. It's just not, it's not the realtors that are the problem. The problem is that there are not enough affordable homes. That is true for middle-class people looking to purchase a home. It's certainly true for people earning less than $35,000 a year. There's just not enough apartments that people can afford. And there are people we know have long-term vulnerabilities, people with developmental disabilities, people with physical disabilities, children, seniors, people with serious mental illness, people with substance use disorders, and people have a combination of all of those things. And there is nothing a homeless shelter can do about that. But the appropriate housing with the appropriate services can do something. That's why we are here today, and that's why we will continue to come up here during the session. Thank you, everybody.
Utah loves humans.